Going bald? Or maybe having a bald rim already? So this video you're watching for a reason. Just a reminder that this is a trilogy about how not to be bald in the modern world. What ways are available and what you can pick and choose for yourself. Hair transplants, micropigmentation, or a hair system. There is no such thing as a hopeless situation. There is the problem of choice and self-confidence. Does being bald mean getting used to it? Absolutely not. It is possible to solve the problem and gain even a peculiar advantage. By the way, why are some people so skeptical of hair systems? Because it's a way in which you immediately get the kind of hair and hairstyles that even people who don't have alopecia can't afford. Rare hair, thin hair, split ends, graying, low density. Straight hair wants it to curl. Who has curly hair wants it to be straight. Redheads want dark hair wants blonde hair, and that's just a desire that goes away in the flow of life. Well, or those who are full of wishes fulfill their whims a few times in their life to try to be different. And nobody seems to be able to change their style as often as they'd like. But you can. You can, like, even weekly. A new hair, a new hairstyle, depending on what you want. And what makes you think that's not an advantage? And it's not even a question of one way or the other. I, for example, choose the hair system. It's more about being able to choose, as I made my choice. You can choose what's right for you and not think about what other people think, because you're solving your problem first and foremost, not someone else's. Many people around you are already used to the fact that maybe you're bald, you're the same person to them, to whom they got used to for years, and they already have this image. And then it's like you. For some reason you need a transplant, or for some reason you need a hair system put on or micropigmentation done. Why? You're the only one who needs it, right? That's why you have to make the decision yourself. What you're ready to do and what's right for you, rather than thinking about how people around you react to it. Another important thing I want to say, from my own, I guess, personal experience. Maybe even remind you of the proverb, you're greeted by the clothes you wear, by your appearance. Everything else is who you really are, that is, we can say, your inner world, your intellect, and so on. That is, there must be a bone inside the fruit and the bone must be strong. If there's no bone, if there's pulp inside, it's all, like a tomato that can be squashed very easily. Just somebody's criticism of you in this case, if you're not prepared for it. So, first of all, I always recommend building yourself up from the inside out, and your appearance is, shall we say, a shell, which why wouldn't you improve? Just as I don't represent any particular clinics, neither do I impose on you one way or another to combat alopecia. As usual, I'm sharing my experience, research, and observations so that you can figure out for yourself, taking all factors into consideration, what's right for you. And I'll try to help you with that. And about that, actually, my detailed private consultations. So, let's get into it. Let's go. Micropigmentation. Let's talk about the advantages. The first advantage is that micropigmentation goes well with transplantation. This is exactly the case when I can recommend you to do micropigmentation, not just to make a drawing or a tattoo on your head, but to complement the hair transplant, to give it a visual density and volume with this kind of toning. Some of you know what topic is. It's the kind of powder that covers your shiny bald spots and gives the illusion of hair. Once again, I remind you that all three methods, whether it's a transplant, micropigmentation, or hair system, it's all a trick of nature, no matter how you look at it. So if someone tells you that transplants are natural and everything else isn't, you can just smile. You can even laugh, much less if someone with big lips, artificial breasts, noses, who uses Botox or even just does their own eyebrow design says it. It's all out of nature. So here's the thing about micropigmentation. Just like dropping this petrodust on your head, you can set a more permanent effect, micropigmentation. It will turn out that the transplanted hair will create hair texture and trichopigmentation volume and such a kind of toning. That is, all your shiny areas that will be seen through will no longer be visible due to the toning. The second point, micropigmentation can cover the area of the vertex, where the engraftment of hair for transplantation is much lower than, for example, on the front or on the central part. Here again, it's about compensatory. For those, for example, who didn't have enough hair and only had enough hair for a front chub, which can be done in hundreds of non-professional clinics. And I've already researched quite a few of them to know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you have already fallen into the traps of such horrible incompetent clinics and are left without donor material, micropigmentation can help. The third advantage of micropigmentation, it's a reversibility. To me, this is a very important metric. In a transplant it is impossible to undo what you get done. There is a reason I created this blog and tell you so much about both doctors and clinics and the need for planning and frontline modeling. These three components alone will make your transplant a success. Once again, proper planning, selecting the right doctor and clinic, and computer modeling the front line in advance. Exactly what I have been doing for you for 2 years in a row. Not Google reviews or recommendations from a neighbor or friend. What worked for him doesn't necessarily work for you. You can try on a friend's hat, but you can't try on his transplant on your situation. Trichopigmentation comes off over time, which means you can get out of this method. It is believed that the most permanent dyes last a maximum of 3 to 4 years, depending on your body, metabolism, age, ink used, the depth to which you get trichopigmentation, but it comes off. Didn't like it? There's a way out. It will either fade and disappear on its own over time, or you can even force its disappearance. Now about the disadvantages of micropigmentation. Once again, I'm reminded that it's very important to me to show all sides of each method in this trilogy: hair transplantation, trichopigmentation, and hair system. In doing so, each side, whether the consultants at the clinic, the tattooist, or the hair system store, will be pulling the blanket over themselves. Always think for yourself. Just because what's right for one doesn't mean it's right for you. For everyone and need to pick up some own way of solving and also understand each individual case, which we do, in fact, in my detailed consultations, whether it is a hair transplant or a hair system. So, are you ready to learn about the disadvantages of micropigmentation? The first nuance of micropigmentation: the cost is quite high for a temporary effect. The work of pros from 1,500 to 2,000 euros, from what I know, and here we immediately flow into point number 2. In fact, very few professionals and not enough of those who do not just put points on bald heads, and understand what he or she does, and for what purpose. Such pseudo-professionals often attribute various regalia to themselves, show worthless diplomas from other pseudo-professionals who supposedly teach them. Although in reality they just make money on those who will then make money on you. The field of micropigmentation is too young. There are a lot of factors to consider in micropigmentation: how everything should be distributed, what color, what texture, considering, for example, the length of hair regrowth you are planning, and many other factors. Yes, I've seen work even for 500 euros, it's either laugh or cry. In this case, it looks, like a dirty head. If you have any really cool professionals, or if you are such a pro yourself, write to me and let's do an episode about you. For a year and a half, I've been trying to find someone worthwhile, and so far all I've seen is really awful. There are literally two, more or less, pros whose work to consider. If someone can afford $1,500 to $2,000 a year, why not? That's a choice, too. The next huge disadvantage, there can be the use of tattooing, which will lead to a green-blue spot effect, over time. Lots of quacks hiding behind the trendy trichopigmentation sign. There are even those who manage to teach it without much experience or a steady hand. All in all, playing on poor bald fellows. Then probably about 90% of the clinics are more about money than quality in medicine. It's the same with micropigmentation. There are times when micropigmentation is passed off as a tattoo, which will become again a blue, green, smudged spot. And it won't be possible to fix it at all. Look more closely at what is being studded on your head, what materials will be walking on your blood for months, maybe years, what will be on your head a year from now and 3-5 years from now. I'm honestly looking for myself, and I don't even have anything of more or less quality in mind yet. But when I do, of course I will share it with you in my videos. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like it, and please write in the comments micropigment. If you already have a good experience, please write to me. Maybe you will be the one to point me to the right micropigmentologist, who will make many guys who are waiting like me for that very expert. Nuance number 4, the ink is actively washed out. So it's both a plus and a minus. Why a plus? I talked about it earlier, the possibility of cancellation. For me this is a very important point, but the minus is that your spent money just as quickly evaporates and you need to do additional sessions, That is repeated, on top of doing trichopigmentation again. Sometimes you need to do it every 3 months, sometimes every 5 months. In general, consider that you get hooked on the needle of a trichopigmentologist. But the plus side is that the dye gradually fades, and if you realize that it does not suit you, you can get out of this way neatly and try something else, transplants, hair system, or just forget about it all in general. Maybe I'm forgetting something? Write in the comments. Maybe there's something I didn't mention. In the next episode, we'll deal with the hair system. Well, and most importantly, let your hair be.